In the meantime, a handful of candidates running for California governor are weighing in on that mass shooting in Stockton.
KCRA 3 political director Ashley Zavala joins us now. So, Ashley, what do they have to say about this? What's their reaction?
Yeah, I mean, from both sides of the aisle, all those candidates were horrified to hear about this. Those candidates spoke for about an hour at the convention center at this forum hosted by the California School Board Association in downtown Sacramento today. 5 of them on stage: Republican Sheriff Chad Bianco and Democrats State Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurmond, former LA Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, former State Assemblyman Ian Calderon, and former State Controller Betty Yee. While the topic of the Stockton mass shooting did not come up on stage there, they did all talk to me after about it. I also asked them about Governor Gavin Newsom's response to this so far. The governor did call the mayor, but has not gone down to Stockton physically, and he also left the state for the rest of the week. Here's how they all responded.
I believe the governor, he should have gone down to Stockton. I exchanged messages with the mayor of Stockton, and she told me how horrible this is for her community and the fear of retaliation and what that was going to mean for her and her community. And this is an area in the Central Valley that already feels like they're flyover country. Nobody cares about us. You fly over us. You only come here when you're campaigning. They can't continue to feel like that, and they need to know that they can have a relationship with the governor and the state, that when something significantly tragic like this happens.
I'll tell you what I did when I was mayor. I always showed up. I showed up when a cop was shot. I showed up when families lost loved ones. Actually, when I was a council member, I went to every single homicide in the 2 years that I was a council member in my district. When I was mayor, there were too many, but we reduced it to 1950 levels, as I said. But I think it's important to show up. And I'm not criticizing anyone. I don't know where he was at, but I could tell you, for me, you show up.
Why isn't the leader of the state there saying that this absolutely must stop and that the perpetrators will be held accountable? As the governor of California, I absolutely would make sure that I was there. I would make sure that I'm there for the families, and we will be doing everything we can to make sure that California is the safest state in the country. This selfishness of our elected officials, that they only do things that benefit themselves, and sometimes they don't have the ability to sacrifice their own ambitions, his vacation or his political speech that he was going to give in another part of the country because a community in California was suffering. It says a lot.
I certainly would make my way to be sure that we're showing our support for those who have lost loved ones and lost community members, but also begin the conversation of really understanding why this has still happened. I think it's going to take all of us, law enforcement, certainly government at all levels, but also really the community, because it's really the partnership, I think, among all of us to really be on alert about how these things can happen that are going to keep our community safe. So.
Would you have gone down there, though, to meet with the...
I would have, yes, absolutely.
Superintendent of Public Instruction and Democratic candidate Tony Thurmond and I spoke on the phone after that event, and he echoed some of what was said there. He told me he's offered resources to help the schools in that area. He also said he's getting in touch with people down in Stockton to see if his presence there would be helpful and what more he can do.
It's interesting that the candidates across party lines all agree on that one thing, that he should have been there. Has the governor reacted to those comments from the candidates?
Yeah, so I ever since the shooting broke out, I've been reaching out to the governor's office every single day just to check in, to see if he has an update, anything to add. I did give them a heads up that this is the reaction that we got from the candidates who are running for governor at this point. He has been in New York City for the New York Times Deal Book Summit. The shooting did not come up during his appearance there, but again, I'll keep checking in. He has an appearance in Washington, D.C. tomorrow to meet with federal officials. We don't know what that schedule exactly entails yet.
Yeah, see if we can get more from him. Yeah. And we're going to have much more reaction on the shooting in Stockton throughout our newscast. You can stay updated on new developments by downloading the KCRA 3 app or just going to KCRA.com.